so that you know approximately how much material to place on there. So just gently layer it on. So you can use your finger to start to smooth it out so that it'll blend with the splint material a lot better, so there's not sort of a seam that forms between the acrylic and the splint. If you want, you can take just a light layer of monomer to help spread out the material. This will allow that acrylic to flow a little bit better. So once you got it spread out evenly at about the height that you want, you'll end up closing your articulator. And since it's in a doughy consistency, it's going to press against the opposing teeth, and it's going to form sort of a perfect occlusion where all the teeth are in contact here. You can now take a brush and with some monomer just continue to paint the acrylic so it blends well with the splint material. What you also want to pay attention to is any acrylic that flows onto your mandibular cast. You want to minimize the amount of acrylic that flows into the embrasure spaces so that as it cures, it doesn't lock the acrylic onto the cast, even though we've placed the Vaseline on there. Once it's cured, you want to remove it from the cast and take a acrylic burr and start to trim off the extra ridges that have formed from the indents. So you don't want to remove any of the material from the cusp tip areas or where your incisal edges has indented into the acrylic, but you want to take away all the excess material that have formed around that. So you want to continue to trim the acrylic and blend the acrylic with the splint material so that you have just one continuous, seamless kind of transition between the acrylic and your splint material. Now once again, we'll check the occlusion and just want to verify that we have contact on all the teeth. So now that you know where the cusp tips mark, you want to again remove any of the ledges that may have formed around your occlusal marks. Be careful not to actually adjust away your contact points, but you want sort of a flat surface surrounding all the contact points. So we'll check the occlusion again and just verify that we have all the marks. So you want to see marks all the way around. In this case, we had accidentally removed some of the marks in the anterior. So in the posterior, you can see a well-distributed occlusal marks, but in the anterior, we ground away just a little bit more acrylic than we needed to. So to fix that, what we can do is just add some orthoacrylic in the contact areas. So we're just taking a little monomer and powder and kind of sprinkling it on into the lingual surface of the maxillary anterior teeth. Again, we're going to wait until it reaches a little bit of a doughy stage before we close it down. We also want to paint the opposing teeth with Vaseline so that the acrylic doesn't stick to it. So now I'll close the articulator and the acrylic will form against the incisal edges of your mandibular cast. So once again, we'll check our occlusion, and what we're looking for is occlusal marks all over our splint. So remember, mutually protected occlusion, one of the principles is you want to have even contact when the teeth come together, both anterior and posterior. So now we're going to check our excursive movements. And the other principle is that we want the canines to end up separating all the back teeth. So we'll do the marks just in centric occlusion in red, and then when we go in excursives in blue. And here you can see that our blue marks when we go in excursive movement is actually off of the first premolar, when we actually want it against the canine. So just to show you again, we'll move the articulator in a lateral movement, and you'll be able to see as we move it that there's actually separation at the canine area, but it's the first premolar that is actually in contact with the splint. So again, we want canine guidance. So what we'll do is we'll move the mark on the first premolar and add to the area of the canine. So with the brush, again, you'll salt and pepper with a little orthoacrylic. So basically what we're doing is building a ramp that starts from the contact point, and you want to build it towards the incisal edge so that as the mandibular canine comes into contact, it's going to ride off of that ramp and separate the back teeth so that you avoid contact in the posterior. So once that's cured, you want to verify it again, and now you can see how we built a little ramp and all the posterior teeth are separated in that excursive movement. So we'll check it again with the articulating paper. So red to mark the marks in centric occlusion, and blue to mark the excursive movement. Now we can see the line that we want on the canine. So we're looking for a line that starts in the contact area and goes all the way through the incisal edge. So we'll check the same on the contralateral side, and now we can see lines on both of the canines. So once you're done with the canines, you want to slide the articulator and protrusive and see where the marks are against the incisors. What we're looking for is to maximize the number of lines coming off of the central and lateral incisors. So you can see we only have marks on one side, so what we'll do is adjust out those marks, and we'll check it on the articulator again and see if we can pick up some more contacts on the other two incisors. So we'll check with articulating paper, and now we can see 4 lines off of the anterior region. So we have canine marks going on lateral, and then our incisors separate the back teeth in protrusive movements. So the last thing we want to do is pumice the splint so that we get something nice and smooth and that's going to be comfortable in the patient's mouth.